For nearly 3 weeks, someone knew exactly where to find her. Not by chance. Not because they saw an elderly woman living alone. They knew because they searched online decades before Nancy Guthrie ever went missing. Google Trends data, analyzed by investigators, now shows that someone in the Tucson area searched for Nancy Guthrie's home address in the weeks leading up to January 31st, 2026. During the same period, they also searched for her daughter's salary. Savannah Guthrie, the Today Show anchor who appears on TV 5 mornings a week in front of millions of Americans. On the night of January 31st, that digital curiosity turned into something far more sinister. Nancy Guthrie vanished from her secluded Arizona home. Her phone was left behind, her medication abandoned. Blood was found on her front porch. Now investigators aren't just asking who took her, they're asking how long she had been watched. If you want the full story, what Google searches revealed, what the doorbell camera actually captured, and why the answers may be hiding in plain sight, stay until the very end. The Catalina Foothills sits just north of Tucson, Arizona. Homes are spaced far apart, surrounded by desert brush and cactus. Privacy is standard there. Nancy Ellen Guthrie had lived in the area for over 50 years. She moved there in the early 1970s and raised 3 children. In 1988, her husband Charles died during a mining expedition in Mexico. After that, she continued living independently. At 84, she was mentally sharp. She drove herself to errands and appointments. On Sundays, she joined church services online. She spent time with her daughter Annie and her other daughter Savannah, called regularly from New York, where she co-anchored NBC's Today Show. Nancy had a pacemaker and took daily medication for blood pressure and heart issues. She didn't require constant care. She lived alone by choice. On Saturday, January 31st at 5:32 p.m., Nancy took an Uber to her daughter Annie's house. They had dinner and spent the evening playing games. At 9:48 p.m., Annie's husband, Damaso Cioni, drove her home. At 9:50 p.m., the garage door opened and then closed. From the outside, nothing seemed out of place. Within the next 4 hours, something took place inside that house that investigators would later classify as a crime scene. At 2:28 a.m., Nancy's pacemaker lost connection with her phone. She was no longer inside the house. Investigators were able to build a precise timeline using digital data most people never think about. At 1:47 a.m., the Google Nest doorbell camera at her front door went offline. At first, authorities believed it had been intentionally powered down and removed. Then, at 2:12 a.m., the system logged motion at the front door, but there was no video. Nancy did not have an active Nest-aware subscription, meaning footage was stored for only about 6 hours before being automatically deleted. By the time her family realized she was missing the next afternoon, that window had already closed. But 10 days later, the FBI released footage that had previously been considered unrecoverable, video from the doorbell camera. The images clearly show a masked figure standing at Nancy Guthrie's front door. The man is wearing a ski mask and gloves with a handgun holstered at his waist. He walks directly up to the camera, looks straight into the lens, holding a flashlight in his mouth. Then he reaches up and blocks the camera using branches from a nearby shrub. FBI Director Kash Patel described the discovery in a way that raised more questions than answers, saying the footage was recovered from residual data within internal systems. Cybersecurity experts say that likely means data was still being retained even without a paid subscription. In other words, the deleted footage wasn't completely gone, not right away, not permanently, and not in the way most users assume. Speaking to CBS News, one expert compared the recovery process to finding a needle in a haystack. Another suggested it revealed technical capabilities Google has never publicly outlined. For the Guthrie family, it marked a significant development in the case. The footage provided more than just a visual. FBI analysts performed a forensic height assessment using the doorbell images. They concluded the suspect was a male of average build, approximately 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches tall. He was carrying a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiking backpack. The backpack is sold exclusively at Walmart. Investigators requested sales records and began reviewing surveillance footage from nearby Walmart stores. At the same time, they canvassed homes within a 2-mile radius, asking residents to share any video recorded between January 1st and February 2nd. A new lead surfaced when search teams found a glove about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. It appeared similar to the one worn by the masked figure in the doorbell footage. DNA was extracted, but when it was run through CODIS, the FBI's national database of convicted offenders and arrestees, there was no match. The sample also didn't match DNA collected inside the house. Investigators said they now have biological evidence, multiple genetic profiles, and unidentified individuals. Chris Nanos, sheriff of Pima County, announced the department would move forward with investigative genetic genealogy, a method that uses commercial DNA databases and genealogical records to build family trees and narrow down suspects. Unlike other cases where police start with a body or a clear crime scene, investigators here were missing the most basic piece of information. No one knew where Nancy Guthrie was. On February 1st at 12:03 p.m., her family called 911 after she failed to log into her virtual church service. They went to her house, checked inside, looked through the backyard and the property. She wasn't there. Deputies from the Pima County Sheriff's Department arrived at 12:15 p.m. Within a few hours, what began as a missing person call officially shifted into a criminal investigation. Chris Nanos received a text from one of his detectives describing what was found inside the house. He later said it was serious enough that he immediately brought in the homicide unit. Blood was discovered on the front porch, and DNA testing confirmed it belonged to Nancy. A source familiar with the case said there were signs of forced entry. Her phone, medication, and personal belongings were still inside. She didn't just walk away. This wasn't voluntary. Someone took her. Within 48 hours, investigators began receiving messages from individuals claiming responsibility. Several media outlets, including a TV station in Tucson, reported getting those messages. The messages were disturbing. The sender referenced specific details about Nancy's home and accurately described what she had been wearing that night, information that had never been released publicly. The demand was for cryptocurrency. Initially, it was $4 million, with a deadline of 5 p.m. on February 5th. If payment wasn't made, the amount would jump to $6 million by the following Monday. Savannah Guthrie and her siblings made a public appeal. In a video posted to Instagram, she addressed the alleged kidnapper directly, saying the family had received the demands, was willing to negotiate, and was prepared to pay. She asked for their mother to be returned, making it clear that nothing mattered more to them and that they were ready to meet the terms.
On behalf of our family, we want to thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom, Nancy. We feel them, and we continue to believe that she feels them too. Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She's funny, spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
There was no response. No proof of life was ever provided. No follow-up message confirmed who was actually holding Nancy or whether she was still alive. As investigators searched for new leads, the case extended beyond the U.S. and into Mexico. A Mexican nonprofit group that specializes in locating missing persons, often in cases tied to cartels, confirmed to BBC's U.S. partner that a member of the Guthrie family had reached out for assistance. Authorities, however, never suggested that cartels were involved. It's standard practice for federal agents to coordinate with Mexican counterparts in cases this close to the border, and they did so here, but that effort didn't produce results. Later, Sheriff Chris Nanos stated he believed Nancy Guthrie was likely still somewhere nearby.
In our community.
Locally?
Yeah.
What makes you think that?
I just do. I don't know why. I don't have any evidence to prove that, but I just believe that she's somewhere here locally.
Yes.
We really put them through the ringer. We not just interview them, we take their cars, we take their houses, we take their phones, all this stuff, and we're not taking it, they're giving it to us voluntarily. They have been 100% cooperative with us through everything we've asked. They are victims. They are not suspects.
Reports suggested there was tension between federal and local investigators over evidence handling. Reuters stated that Sheriff Chris Nanos had restricted the FBI's access to key materials. Nanos denied that claim, but signs of friction were apparent. At one point, Sheriff Chris Nanos announced that DNA evidence would be sent to a lab in Florida for genetic genealogy testing. CEC Moore, chief genetic genealogist at Parabon Nanolabs, publicly criticized the move. Her company has helped solve some of the most high-profile cold cases in the U.S., and she described the decision as damaging to the investigation. Nanos pushed back, saying the priority was speed, not politics. He maintained that his department was using every available resource to move the case forward. Behind the scenes, frustration was mounting. More than 40,000 tips came in, and roughly 400 personnel were assigned to the case each day. Helicopters combed the desert using equipment designed to detect pacemaker signals, while dive teams inspected septic systems. Investigators checked gas stations, analyzed purchase records, and went door to door. Still, there were no arrests, no identified suspect, and no sign of Nancy. Attention later turned to Google data. Fox News Digital reviewed publicly available information from Google Trends and found activity suggesting that someone in the Tucson area may have searched for Nancy Guthrie's home address in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. The data also indicated that image searches of her Arizona residence may have occurred as early as March 2025, months before she vanished. Between December 13th and 20th, 2025, roughly 6 weeks before the abduction, search activity in Tucson appeared to include queries about Savannah Guthrie's salary. The data pointed to planning. This didn't look random. It suggested deliberate targeting. Whoever took Nancy may have spent significant time studying her routine, her property, and financial details related to her daughter. Another detail stood out. Investigators requested home surveillance footage from January 11, 2026, about 3 weeks before the disappearance, covering 9 p.m. to midnight. They also sought footage from January 31st, the day she vanished, including the window between 9:30 and 11 a.m. That late morning time frame raised questions. If the abduction happened overnight, why focus on footage from mid-morning? It suggested the possibility that someone had been at the property earlier, possibly conducting surveillance. The Pima County Sheriff's Office declined to comment. Cameron emphasized that the family had received no direct contact and was still waiting to hear from whoever was holding their mother. The silence didn't break. There was no proof of life and no new communication. Sheriff Chris Nanos continued to say he believed Nancy was alive and pushed back against claims the case was going cold. He stated that as long as investigators are actively pursuing leads, the case isn't cold, and that they're working through thousands of them. Speaking directly to the person responsible, he added that they intend to find Nancy and identify whoever took her. The case sparked broader concerns about digital vulnerability and the amount of personal information people leave behind online, often without realizing it. Nancy Guthrie lived a private life and wasn't a public figure beyond her connection to Savannah Guthrie. But that connection may have been enough. Her home address was searched. Her daughter's income was looked up, and eventually, someone showed up at her door wearing a mask and carrying a gun, acting with clear intent. Some have speculated that the motive could be connected to Savannah Guthrie's professional work. Over the years, she has covered high-profile stories involving major corporations and sensitive issues, which can sometimes generate backlash. However, there is no official evidence linking her reporting to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, and authorities have not confirmed any connection. Investigators continue to pursue genetic genealogy and analyze unidentified DNA profiles. They're working with Walmart to track backpack purchases and requesting surveillance footage from residents within a 2-mile radius. As of now, Nancy Guthrie is still missing. Her location and her condition remain unknown. The masked individual captured on the doorbell camera still hasn't been identified, and the central question has only intensified. Who was researching Nancy, and for how long? Yellow ribbons remain tied to trees outside her home. Flowers and candles continue to line the sidewalk. Neighbors describe the situation as unsettling and unlike anything they've experienced in their community. Nancy's family says they can't move forward and can't think about anything else until they get answers. For that reason, Savannah Guthrie released another public appeal, asking people across the country to come forward with any information. She announced a $1 million reward for details that could lead to a breakthrough in the case.
Hi there. I'm coming on to say it is day 24 since our mom was taken in the dark of night from her bed. And every hour and minute and second and every long night has been agony since then, of worrying about her and fearing for her and aching for her. And most of all, just missing her, We know that millions of you have been praying. So many people have been praying of every faith and no faith at all, praying for her return. And we feel those prayers. Please keep praying without ceasing. We still believe. We still believe in a miracle. We still believe that she can come home. Hope against hope. As my sister says, we are blowing on the embers of hope. We also know that she may be lost. She may already be gone. She may have already gone home to the Lord that she loves and is dancing in heaven with her mom and her dad and with her beloved brother Pierce and with our daddy. And if this is what is to be, then we will accept it. But we need to know where she is. We need her to come home. For that reason, we are offering a family reward of up to $1 million for any information that leads us to her recovery. All of the information about this reward and the details is in the caption below. You can call the 1-800-TIP line. You can be anonymous if you want. Someone out there knows something that can bring her home. Somebody knows. And we are begging you to please come forward now. We also know that we are not alone in our loss. We know there are millions of families that have suffered with this kind of uncertainty. And for that reason today, we also are donating $500,000 to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for their work in helping families who are coping with loss and actively looking for those who are lost. We are hoping that the attention that has been given to our mom and our family will extend to all the families like ours who are in need and need prayers and need support. So please, if you hear this message, if you've been waiting and you haven't been sure, let this be your sign to please come forward, tell what you know, and help us bring our beloved mom home so that we can either celebrate a glorious, miraculous homecoming or celebrate the beautiful, brave and courageous and noble life that she has lived. Please be the light in the dark. Thank you.
Uncertainty still defines this case. The planning appears deliberate, the execution calculated, and the silence intentional. Investigators are reportedly working with additional information that hasn't been made public in order to protect sensitive leads. One of the theories being considered is that the suspects may have used tunnel systems in the area to escape.
A chilling 911 call was made to police the night Nancy Guthrie was kidnapped. A police dispatcher sent out an alert about a woman hanging out of the window of a car, and she was screaming.
The caller is advising they saw a female out of a vehicle window screaming. The vehicle was a dark gray or blue Chevy Malibu, no plate. Advised that the female was hanging out of the window wearing all black, and the door was also open.
Was the woman in the car 84-year-old Nancy? The location given by the undetermined 911 caller is just 3 miles from her house. The disturbing call was revealed last night by Nancy Grace.
Is it connected? We don't know, but it's close to her home around the time she was taken. We can't really discount anything.
Meanwhile, volunteers are searching the complex of large flash flood drainage tunnels beneath Tucson in the hopes of finding some evidence that Nancy was held there for a time.
They searched pretty much this entire one.
I spoke with News Nation's Brian Enton, who combed through one of the largest tunnels sometimes used by homeless people.
There are these tunnels that go beneath Tucson and are in the area where Nancy lives in the foothills. They go under roadways, they go under neighborhoods. They're drainage tunnels when there's a lot of rain in the area, but right now they're totally empty. I went into the tunnels and there's a lot of homeless people that stay down there, but volunteers have been looking in the tunnels just in case there could be any evidence down there or any sign of Nancy.
Someone out there knows something.
And Savannah Guthrie's gut-wrenching appeal and her offer of $1 million reward has already brought 750 credible tips as the search for Nancy Guthrie goes on.
This video was not made for clicks or attention. It was made to shed light on a tragedy that happened in 2026 and on a woman who still hasn't come home. As long as there are no answers, this story cannot simply fade away. If this video happens to reach someone who knows something, even the smallest detail, that detail could matter more than you realize. Sometimes one piece of information changes everything. I'm including the official contact information below.